I'm not hearing you still. Let me make sure I'm okay here. Yes, I'm okay here. Stand by, folks. Farid is having a little audio problem here. I'm seeing his mic is open, but I'm not hearing him. So stand by, folks. We're going to be talking dangerous dogs today. I tell you. Nice topic. I'm still not hearing you, Farid. Try again. Right, I see your mic is right. Okay, let me see. I'm not hearing you still. What's wrong? Everything is okay on my side. Hold on, folks. We're gonna get it right in a short. All right. So, like I've been saying, we need to have some sort of a arrangements with the traffic wardens or the SRP police if the TTPS is too busy and hands are filled with all sort of work that they gotta conduct these days. Put some people on Abercrombie Street, and I saw the same thing going on Pembroke. I mean, geez, we know the schools are there, but we can't afford the people who are doing the pickup of these children shut down the traffic. I mean, it's not even at snail pace. It's total shut down. Can you imagine almost an hour to come up Abercrombie Street? And I didn't go way up to the top. I simply went as far as, or I came as far as 88 to 90 Abercrombie Street. That's where we are. So from the bottom of Abercrombie Street, where it connects with Independence Square, to the top of Abercrombie Street, problems. And I know it's because of those schools, and not really of the physical school, The people who come to pick up these children, seems like they have a heart, They come to pick up their children. Wait till I pick up my child, this kind of thing. I am moving. If I move, I might end up in problems with the traffic. Farid, can I try me now again? I'm still not hearing you. Stand by, folks. We are trying to clean up a problem here that audio with our co-host Farid Ali, attorney at law. So stand by, stick and stay, don't go away. Okay. Remember, we're talking dangerous dogs, so you can listen whether you have a dog or not, whether it's dangerous or not. We have had lots and lots of problems with dangerous dogs. Let me see. Okay, Farid. Oh, we're having problems linking up with Farid. Let me try again. Okay, he's trying another system. Let's see if he comes up here. So, our special guest, Dr. Sherelle Sammy, a vet.
How's the volume now, David?
Yes, you're sounding fantastic now, bro. Well done.
I tried a different device. My apologies for being late. I'm actually tuning in from Tobago today.
Oh, great. You're up there for the big carnival launch?
No. Actually, I came to do some work, but I'm returning tomorrow. I had a few things doing.
Oh, okay. But you're okay otherwise, right?
All is well. How about you? All is well with you?
Yes, all is well with me. I'm taking it one step at a time. I practice that every day. I wake up, I say, one step at a time. Don't try to move your 2 feet.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. So as we roll on, we have a special guest that will be coming on, Dr. Sherelle Sammy. And the topic will be dangerous dogs.
Yes.
So,
I'm not seeing Miss Sammy quite in this moment. I know I would have kept her back somewhat.
well, I'm going to send up some smoke signals so that she can log on. All right. I have a special way of sending up some smoke signals here. All right. So, what's on the agenda?
Well, we're talking about dangerous dogs, but not so much the negative side of it. I'm trying to get from our special guest, Dr. Sherelle Sami, from a vet's point of view.
Yeah.
That perspective as to animal care and what we as laypersons, because that applies to you and I, what we as laypersons can do in relation to containing the eventuality that something could possibly happen with our pets and ourselves.
Yeah.
This problem that we're having in this country where so many of our citizenry, particularly, and if you notice there's a pattern, it's always elderly citizens or young children that these dogs attack. Now, I don't think that the dogs are targeting elderly children, elderly adults and young children. It simply may be that somewhere in the treatment of these animals by young persons, whether not having the knowledge as to how to interact with dogs of this nature, and the older people in terms of perhaps not understanding the moods or the instincts of these creatures, that they may be triggering certain behavioral patterns. Because it's always isolated cases. Every now and then, if we may put it that way, in isolated incidents, we lose citizens, we lose elderly people, we lose young children. It's not something that we could condone. We can't say that it's collateral damage.
Right.
So I was having a chat with Dr. Sami off air, if I may put it that way. And she was sharing with me that, she doesn't cease to be an animal lover when she hears of incidents like this, that if the public could be a little more educated and educate themselves as to how to deal with and how to treat with the animals, in terms of caring for them and understanding how to approach them, then we may be in a position where we could empower ourselves as citizens.
Yeah. In
terms of limiting the possible dangers associated with caring for animals. It's sad. I must say, did you in your time, in terms of, well, I'm sure have you ever known anyone who may have been a victim of an attack by dogs? And when I say dogs, I think all of us growing up would have been, you're traversing the roads as young children, you would have been interfering with the neighbors' dogs. Like we used to bark at them as a child. And in fun, we bark at them, they bark at us. And you're doing that all in the mindset that, that gate is not going to be open. You can play with them and bark at them and taunt them.
Yes.
Through a wire fence or through a gate, knowing that, no matter how much they can come through at you. But, basically what we're doing there, and we may not be mindful, but inadvertently we are antagonizing the dog.
Yes.
I remember my neighbor's dogs used to be barking at me no matter how many times I passed by, because even if I'm in a peaceful mood one day, I think the dog never forgot that yesterday I was him. So, I'm in his bad books, so to speak. So hopefully, Dr. Sami, I'm seeing she's online now. As long as she joins us, she'll be able to share some tips as to how to deal with and treat with situations like this.
Yes. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Dr. Sami.
Hi. Dr. Sami, we must thank you for making yourself available. My apologies for my late arrival. I had, let me put it this way, a personal and administrative problem on my end, but we're here with you. And we want to thank you for making yourself available to us.
Sure,
so here
no problem.
Yes. So how are you? It's a pleasure to have you on our program. It's a pleasure that you're willing to share your knowledge and your wisdom with the public. We are live on Facebook and also on radio, online radio, that is. So maybe we can get straight into it. Maybe you can introduce yourself by way of a small introduction as to where you grew up, what school you attended. We wouldn't ask you your age. I promise you that.
That's fine. That's fine.
And if you can share how long you've been, working with animals and been in the field, that is.
No problem at all. My name is Dr. Sherelle Sami, and I have been a veterinarian for 8 years now. I went to the University of the West Indies School of Veterinary Medicine in Trinidad. And Prior to that, I went to Providence Girls Catholic School, great school. And a lot of my love actually came from when I was a little child and interacting with them at a very young age, right? I currently work in Trinidad in a small animal vet practice. So I do deal with a lot of dogs. I do deal with a lot of cats. Very rarely do I see exotics, but I do see them from time to time.
All right. Well, I'm the co-host, and Richard Nori will be joining us shortly. He's online, but he'll be joining us shortly. So we will have some questions to you. Basically, what we're trying to do is to just educate ourselves and the public. We as laypersons, you being the experts, we're just trying to get some information as to what we as laypersons, as citizens of the Republic, as people who with an untrained eye in relation to animals, what we can do to better educate ourselves in terms of how we can treat pets and how we can treat with dogs in particular. Unfortunately, we had a recent incident where a young citizen, an 11-year-old girl, was mauled to death, Rachel Bagwandine, by an American breed pit bull. Now, before we get into the pit bull aspect, I'm not asking you to comment on the incident because that might be something, the subject of an investigation at this time. What I'm concerned with, and what Rachel and I are particularly concerned with, is these incidents, in our understanding, may not go away. There's a trend, there's a pattern. Every so now and then, we hear elderly people, grandmothers, grandfathers, they being, and for want of a better word, mauled by these animals. And unfortunately, in being mauled, they sometimes lost their lives. Unfortunately, things happen with children also. Now, that is not going to deter the citizenry out there from, wanting to have pets and wanting to have pets of this nature. Before we get into that whole aspect of, the bull terrier and the pit bulls and that sort of thing, my question to you is this. Are pets in general capable of being trained, capable of being tutored and nurtured in such a way that they could understand that the boundaries of how to interact with human beings?
Yes, they can. All animals can be trained, and specifically in the canine group that we are going to speak about. Yes, they can be trained. And when we go a little bit more in depth with our topics, the vet community would like to impress upon the public the importance of training a dog. Because while we may be breed specific this particular time, to be very honest, any dog can bite you. Any animal can bite or attack you based on certain cues or instincts or aggression. Anything can happen at any time. Training and our human-animal bond is where we would like to advocate for. What a lot of people tend to do, majority tend to do, is when they get an animal, or when they, let's just focus on the canine, when they do get a dog, majority just usually have them for protection, for the yard, not really particularly interacting with them the way that they need to, aka, in other words, training them. That part is majorly lacking in our country and our culture. I would say that. It is very unfortunate with respect to what has happened, and deepest condolences to the family and anyone else who has experienced this type of trauma. It is definitely heartbreaking to the vet community that this has happened, and we would always love to get a platform and an opportunity to advocate for better pet ownership and responsible pet ownership, which includes training your dog, your companion, your pet.
I'm sorry. My concern is that you're speaking about training a dog and how you interact with a dog. My concern is this. If it is you get a a dog is, you get a newly born. Let's just start at the basic level. You get a dog, you inherit a dog, so to speak. A dog is in the family. What are the steps that you would recommend families engage in with that dog in order to build that sort of relationship, and what training steps are you suggesting? Because it's easy to talk training. Most people, you have the dog in the house. When the sun goes down, you put him out in the yard, you lock the door on the dog. Does training involve diet, ensuring that he eats out on particular times, ensuring that he eats a particular course in terms of meals? When you say training, are you speaking training dog in looking after nutritional and dietary needs, as well as how you as persons in the household interact with the dog? What are the guidelines that you could give us from that perspective?
When I refer to training, I usually specifically meant behavioral training, but the topics that you pointed out were more holistic. In terms of veterinary care and diet and nutrition, yes, those things matter. But in terms of, with respect to what we are dealing with when an animal doesn't have a certain type of behavior and you want to train them, so let's say you get a puppy, I usually have that in that discussion as either a new pet owner or one that hasn't had a puppy for a long time, or just simply having the conversation. Behavioral training is what I gear to. Nutrition, as well as vaccine protocols or deworming protocols, and the overall health and maintenance of the dog, yes, we do discuss. But when I speak about training, I'm more speaking about the mental engagement with this animal from young. All right. So a few tips that I would like everyone, when you get a new puppy, first note that everyone in the home must participate in training this dog, right? It is very important to do so because, like you mentioned, if the son gets the dog and not everyone is on board and it's just the son interacting with that dog, it becomes a bit difficult if that son is no longer there and someone else has to interact with the dog, doesn't know the cues, doesn't know the routine, doesn't know what their triggers are, if they have any at all, what to do. It's difficult when that one person that interacts with the dog is no longer there and the family member, it's on the family members to interact with the dog, but not necessarily know what they need to do and how to interact with the dog appropriately, right? So a few tips, let me just give you guys a few tips. As a new dog owner, certain, yes, they're the basics: sit, stay, stand, stand as in wait, tricks that you can do, and everybody needs to be consistent and on the same page. Do I allow this dog on the couch or not? Do I allow the dog into the home or not? When you do mixed signals, it is very confusing to the animal to figure out what is acceptable and what is not. What you reward and what you discipline with or not reward, let me say that, is important as well, because this animal will be confused as to what is acceptable behavior and what is not. So usually when I'm discussing how to train your dog, now I'm not a trainer, but I just do basic interactions with your dog. One is training your dog at night or your puppy at night to understand certain bedtimes or certain cues. And can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay, you were breaking up a bit. So certain cues and timing. Feeding as well is important. So if you have a set time to eat, let's say and you get up 6 in the morning, you get breakfast, 12 in the afternoon or 6 in the evening, and that's a set time. Everyone has to be on board with that. I do tend to let people know that there are dogs that are food aggressive. So in terms of breaking them out of that, you have to have a steady schedule when it comes to those types of things. Now, a dog that is food aggressive does not have to stay food aggressive. When we domesticated these animals and we brought them into our schedule and what we wanted for them, we never took out their instincts. So those are things that you have to pay attention to as well. Training your dog needs to be consistent. And it needs to be across the board with every family member involved. And I think that's where we fall short in. Right?
All right. Farid and Dr. Sherelle Sami.
Sherelle Sami.
Sherelle Sami. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me something. Is there any particular, no, before I even go there, I'm going back to the dangerous dog side, right? Because you say a dog can bite anybody if it receives the wrong signal, so on and so on and the other. Everybody must be consistent with the same type of signals and how you interact with the pet, even if it's a dangerous dog, that is your pet. Is there any training that you are aware of that could prevent a dog at any given time, notwithstanding how much it is trained, from attacking somebody?
Not to my knowledge. So each dog and each case will be different, right? Sorry, my camera went, right. Each dog and each case is different. There is no one specific command across the board that can stop an animal from being focused on what they're doing at the moment when it comes to being aggressive to someone, attacking them or biting them. Usually, at the time that it happens, you do have to try to distract the dog, whether you hose it down. I do not ever... Hello?
I'm hearing you.
I do not ever advise or recommend that you put yourself in the middle of a dog that is in the moment attacking someone or another dog. Either use a rope or a leash to try to get it around the neck and pull to direct it away from its focus at the point in time. It puts you in harm when you put yourself, and that aggression can be redirected off of the original object and onto you, which is not good for anyone. So across the board, is there a specific command? No, each dog is different, each training is different, each person uses different words. I know someone who uses German, and when he comes to the clinic, he lets us know what his command words are, and he gives us the instructions that we need in order to interact with his dog, and it's in German. So it's not the same stroke across the board.
So if that is the case, then we could agree that at some stage, these dangerous dogs could, at any time of their own choosing, attack a human being.
It is possible.
And if that is the case, does it make sense for humans, especially in a little country like ours, where these dangerous dogs have now killed, I think, perhaps hundreds of people in this country? Do you think it's fair for the government to still allow these dogs, outside of being a part of a canine unit, to be owned by citizens as pets? That makes sense, Doc?
It does, only because you're straying away from the fact that it really depends on the owner's responsibility to train this dog. If done correctly, if done consistently, if done together with good intent, these dogs can coexist with us quite fine. Now, I do understand where you're coming from, where you are uncertain as to what the trigger point is, and we are alarmed and concerned as to if at any point they can trigger and turn on us. Yes, but it's very low. The numbers that these types of dogs who have harmed us, the numbers are not, I wouldn't say we're in the thousands. I do recall a study in 2008 where they did Dr. Carla Georges did a study with dog bites in Trinidad, and the age categories between 8 and 12-year-olds. And I believe out of 293, kids were bitten and needed medical attention. Yeah. Yes.
I understand that. And if that was the consequence that we had to endure, that would be reasonable if when the dog is exposed to the trigger, which causes them to react in unpredictable ways, and when that happens, the net resulting outcome of it, which I'm aware of in Trinidad, is usually death for a senior person, a child, or even young, wonderful, strong adults like yourself. Those dogs kill people, Doc. And if they kill one, the consequence is high. Based on the type of consequence, we have to say the number is high. You have a dog. One other thing I want to ask, when you have a dangerous dog and you train it, could we both agree that at some stage, no matter how meticulous you may be in keeping your gate closed and your house locked up or so, that dog will escape at some time?
The chances are there. It's never zero. I must say that. But I don't want to shy away from responsible pet ownership. It is very difficult for me to not advocate for the animal and responsible pet ownership and getting everyone involved in training a dog. What we would like is zero chances of this happening, but globally it happens. Not just Trinidad, right? And there are laws that are put in place in order for the risk to be decreased. We're not there yet. We are not there yet.
Doc, I can't tell when last I heard of a dog killing someone in England or in Ireland or in America or in Canada. When last you heard that? Now let me tell you what they have done in those countries, Doc. Let me tell you what they have done. They have serious penalties in place for the owners.
Correct.
Serious. So serious that the owners, they either get rid of the dog or they literally live with the dog. Wherever they are, there's a line of sight between them and the dog. We don't have that here, and that's not a part of our culture. And the dog in our country, they tend to get away at some point in time. And when they do, let me tell you what happened in Couva just about a month ago. A neighbor pit bull got away. Now, that pit bull is about 3 of them in 1 yard. And across you, there's a little kind of Chihuahua dog, whatever they call it. You may know the name better. But they talk from a distance whenever I'm there because I have family. And you see the conversation taking place. We can't interpret it. But the little one will be making a lot of noise, and the big ones, those pit bulls, they just, make this aggressive sort of sound like, if I only get out of here, what I will do to you. and they were just there and watch him. You know what happened, Doc? About a month ago, after about 8 months, I should say, of torment to the pit bulls from the little one. I had to say the little one was actually tormented them. The little one was in the yard. The car drove in and their gate remained open a little while. And the pit bulls, like they had a escape strategy from their yard. They were waiting on him to be exposed. And one got over their wall and they bit off the head in Hoover of the little dog.
Right.
Very, very. Now, of course, the conversation has ended between those dogs. But that is not the outcome we wanted to see, Doc. That was not the outcome.
Very true.
And if it was a human being, the outcome might have been virtually the same. They did it to a senior woman just the other day too. I'm sure you heard about that. Senior woman.
Yeah.
I saw a video, Doc, where in the woman's own yard, the dogs came in and they were biting this lady and they killed her. And a gentleman was on top of the house, remember that? Pelting blocks at the dog. And he hit one straight in the head and she just shook it off, and then the dog kept on with its own business, biting away at the woman's neck and so on. She died. You remember that scene? It was on television too. It was making the rounds all over, people sending video. We should keep, I don't want you to become an advocate, but we don't have the system in place in this country as other developed countries do. Should we still take the same risk as those other countries where they have systems in place to make sure the behavior is controlled, but we don't have it, but we must maintain the same dogs that could do the same damage?
No, we must reach to where they have a reach, because bear in mind that they would have had instances where an animal would have killed a human. They would have had instances just like what we are having now, but they put things in place in order to hold the owner responsible for better and responsible ownership to occur. At no point would I say, let's continue with what we're doing and not let us aim towards what Canada, US, UK, and if we really want to reduce our numbers, we have to do better as humans.
No, it's not just humans, Doc. As humans too, yes, I agree with that.
So,
but we can't go to that extent. We need the parliament to put laws in place that would compel us to behave in a certain way in order to have those dogs. Now, what I'm saying is, until the parliament does that, shouldn't we have a ban on the ownership of those dogs? I'm not saying the dogs ought not to be here now, but shouldn't we take a decision to prevent people from owning those dogs until the proper systems are in place?
Well, I know, the thing is, I know we have the Dangerous Dog Act. I know they consulted with us and a few others, for us as in vets, in order to have this done. We're based on all the stories that we've heard and all the instances heard. Has the owner been held accountable? Has the law been?
No, and you have heard about anybody paying out the $1 million insurance saying it? No, Doc, it's not working.
Exactly.
It's so
they need to do better.
So it's a setup, Doc. Human beings have been set up for dogs to eat them. We are being killed and damaged severely by these dogs, Doc. And those people in parliament set the stage to have humans exposed. Now, I'm a dog lover, but not the dangerous dog lovers. When I come up my vehicle and so I have to look up, down, and across, you know what I'm looking for? Not only the people who are trying to kill us at will in this country, you know, but also a loose, dangerous dog. It's becoming very difficult to live in this country, Doc. Dogs attacking us, humans attacking us. Where is the pushback going to come from? Shouldn't we at least start with the dogs, Doc? The dangerous ones?
And your solution is to ban the dangerous ones?
Until, temporarily, like how they shut down the metal industry. Why don't we shut down the dangerous dog industry? Until we have a proper system in place to make sure human lives, safety first, Doc. I know you will not be against that. Shouldn't we say safety first?
But yes, safety first, but I I shudder at the repercussions to put a ban on dangerous dogs. And
what will be the repercussion that you shudder at?
That they would euthanize across the board any breed that is considered a dangerous dog.
But the consequences that humans could lose their lives.
And and the solution is
temporarily until the government will vote for them to go to parliament and make laws. If they
have made laws, it's just to implement
the laws not working. Well, is the parliament to insist that those laws that they made are implemented? What is the sense making the laws up and just leave them on the book? That makes sense.
It doesn't, and that's why we need to hold them accountable for protecting us. There are laws in place, they're just not being implemented, and that's not the dog's fault. Once again,
we have an attorney on set with us.
No problem.
Richard, allow me to interject here somewhat.
Yes. I was going to ask you to join at this stage, Farid.
Please do.
Yeah.
There's the Dangerous Dog Act, right?
Yeah.
That act, the Dog Control Act, Dr. Sammy, the Dog Control Act was created in the year 2013. Act number 1 of 2013. There was an amendment to the Act 3 of 2014, right?
Correct.
So what Richard is saying carries some validity, right? However, what we recognize is we have an enforcement problem in this country. When I examine the Act clearly identifies the dogs that are considered Class A, which are what we call dangerous dogs, right?
Correct.
The Act is specifically pinpointing that there's the American Pit Bull Terrier, then there's the American Staffordshire Terrier, the American Bully, the Argentino, the Japanese Tosser, the Fila Brasileiro, right? Now, I hope my pronunciation is correct there, but my position is simply this. I accept that there is a dog control act. What the public needs to understand is when you go any of these mentioned there, and I think the one that may be most relevant to us, and you can understand, the one that may be most relevant would be the American Pit Bull Terrier, right? We will have 10 of those and others. But needless to say, when you own a Class A dog, you have a dog of this
Farid, I don't know if it's my system. We're not hearing you at all.
We're not hearing you well.
You're breaking up badly.
So,
Farid, the last clear thing you said, believe it or not, was that we have a Dangerous Dog Act. That was the last clear thing I heard. Yeah. Everything else was, but we were hoping it would have cleared up. So if you could start back and see if we get a better feed. Yeah.
Yeah, I just moved around to see if it was me.
Yeah. I was shifting my computer to see if I could have carried closer to the Wi-Fi or go in the gallery to borrow some of my neighbor's Wi-Fi. But I just...
I'm so sorry.
I learned that from one of my co-hosts. If you know me. Thomas, I know he's not here. I just joking. But I was shifting mine to Farid to see if it was mine.
Me.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Are you hearing me?
It wasn't mine. Better
I'm
now.
hearing you now.
Yeah.
Good. I was referring you to the Dog Control Act. I was saying that there was an amendment in 2014. What the amendment basically identifies is that a person who owns a Class A dog ought to register the fact that they own that dog, and they ought to register with the local authority, meaning that if I'm living, let us say, in Diego Martin, I have to register with the local authority in Diego Martin that I have a dog of a certain pedigree. Let us say it's an American Pit Bull Terrier. And then the local
who will be the local authority in Diego Martin? The police?
Well, no. The local authority, I would imagine, would be the corporation.
Well, I just
corporation.
wanted to be sure. Local government. The local government authority. Yeah, okay.
Yes. we can't burden with the police with that responsibility. They have enough things on their plate. So the local authority, the local government authority, they ought to send someone. Once Richard Norrie indicates that I have a dog, a pit bull terrier, they ought to send somebody to Richard Norrie's premises. And Dr. Sammy, you're here to correct us. And when the local authority sends someone over, they have to ensure that the premises is fenced, gated, and the walls of a certain height and dimension.
Correct.
In order to ensure that that dog is secured. Then, that register ought to be made public. So people like David McIntyre and myself, we ought to be able to go to the local authority, look at the registers, see the nature of the creatures that are in our community, and try to adjust our mind to the fact that, you know what, if I'm anywhere close to Dr. Sammy's home, she is known to have dogs of a certain nature. She lives in this community. So I know when I'm conducting myself and conversing myself and traversing the premises, the outskirts of our premises, that I want to conduct myself in a particular way. So there are rules. My concern is this, Dr. Sammy, if you're with us, are you aware that this practice is engaged by our citizenry, that when citizens acquire these dogs and take them in, that they actually go and inform the authority? Because if we may be able to assist the public from a preventative side, from the supply side, that listen, once awareness is created, just like we have a sex register in this country, where certain offenders, when they live in a particular community, we are well aware of who lives where. In the same manner, there are laws in place under the control that fines. How owners ought to conduct themselves. The first thing you ought to do, according to the Act, Section 7 of the Act specifically speaks to the registration of dogs, that you go register with the local authority, and local authority must inspect your premises. Say Richard Norrie, who acquires a dog, and when the local authority sends their representative and they realize that he has holes in his fence, or he has a faulty gate, or he has a short wall, they could simply have the dog removed from the premises, because he hasn't adapted his premises in a manner that is consistent with protecting the public from himself and his dog. Are you aware, Dr. Sani, that this practice is engaged? Or do you encourage persons who bring dogs to your business that they engage in practice? Because we may have lawless people out there, people who may be endangering the rest of the public and its community with their reckless conduct. So maybe we can tweak the conversation along that line. Is it within your knowledge that people are mindful of the fact that we have the Dog Control Act and there are rules when you have dogs like this?
I am aware of people knowing the Dangerous Dog Control Act. However, I'm not aware of the infrastructure placed for them to register their dogs at the local authorities, because I myself, just like Richard, was wondering who that was. And I don't think that is common knowledge. I don't think we don't have a sign that says register your dangerous dog. Well, register your and illicit type of dogs here. I'm not aware of that. Do we need to do that? Yes. Should we have better infrastructure in order for us to do a better job at protecting our senior citizens, our children, our middle age? Yes, we need to do better. Am I aware that we are doing it? No, I am not.
Doc,
but these are things that we can now have. We are having the discussion, and it should spark this.
Right.
These incidents should spark and encourage and ignite change in order for us to do better. We are still not doing better.
Doc, at your clinic, people bring dangerous dogs for you to take care of and examine?
Yes, they do.
Dogs like pit bull too, Doc?
Yes, they do.
And big ones, Doc?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Now, I would say, of course, this is different from vet clinic to vet clinic or to vet to vet. But in the 8 years that I have been practicing, I would say I only got bitten 3 times. 2 was when I was going to give a treat and they didn't intend to bite me, but in trying to get the treat, nipped my hand. And the other was trying to take a temperature, and the owner was not, it was a Mastiff, I believe, or a Mastiff Boxer mix. The owner didn't restrain the dog properly for me. So I did get a nip on my hand, and I do still have a little scar. But I would say, yes, we do see dogs. Do I see a lot of aggressive dogs? Yes, we do practice fair, free medicine to some degree, where if we know that the dog is aggressive in any type of way or class under the Dangerous Act, we do have a protocol in place that the owner does prior to coming to the clinic to make the visit safer for ourselves.
Well, allow me to make this point, Doc. And Richard, maybe the public should know this up front. If it is you own a Class A dog and you fail to register with the local authority, and if it is the local authority visits, or even if it is you register it or you attempt to register, and the local authority comes and see that your premises isn't adopted or adapted by way of gating, fencing, and by way of the dimensions of your wall meeting certain latitude, there's a penalty involved. You can be fined according to Section 9 of the Dangerous Dog Act, or the Dog Control Act, as we say. You can fine and be able for a fine of up to $50,000 and to 1 year in jail. So for those persons who own Class A dogs,
Fareed, we're back in trouble again.
It is after today. I'm not saying after today, I'm just referring to the context of our program. They know now if they don't know.
Hello?
Fareed, your sister.
Fareed, we are losing you.
Yes.
Yeah. While Fareed works on that, let me just ask a follow-up question here to the doctor. When you are being trained to become a vet dog, hello?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, right. When you are going through the process to become a vet, do they train you all to protect yourself when you're dealing with these dogs?
They do let us, is it a course in school? No, but they do give us tips and basic general lessons in which we can determine if a dog is aggressive. In terms of training, no. We do need to do better, and this was a conversation that we had, where we need to do a behavioral course in order for us to do better and to teach owners how to do a better job. But in school, no, at least in my time, without giving out my age, although I look really young. I know in my time, I can't say that I was aware of training or behavioral cues when it came to dogs and cats. I know better now, and I have done research now, and I have practiced enough to know better now. But no, when studying in my time, we didn't spend a lot of time with behavior and training.
All right. Let me ask one more question, and then I'll turn it back over to Fareed.
Sure.
Yeah. If you realize that you may be coming under attack from a dangerous dog, what could you tell our listeners that they could do to defend themselves?
What do you want them to?
The top thing that I tend to advise anyone is the stance to be a tree or to be a rock when you stand still, when you look away, when you turn your back, you increase your chances of the dog no longer being interested in you. Because bear in mind, like I mentioned earlier, we domesticated these animals. They were wild and they did their own thing. We trained them in a way to now live with us. What I would say, lost my train of thought for a bit, but what I would say is if you scream and yell and run, you then activate their predator instinct, and that just makes them more fixated on you. So be a tree or be a rock is the tip that I would give to our public. So when we scream and when we run and when we make loud noises,
Somehow your mic got muted.
Okay. Something loud passed.
Okay.
When we scream and make loud noises, we then activate that instinct, that predator instinct in them to be more aggressive to us. So that would be my tip for the public. If ever played.
Yeah, I think you said that you could also turn your back and stand still.
But yeah, so don't make eye contact is what I would, especially if they're coming closer to you and you have a short space of time in order to get to higher ground or to get away, break eye contact, because they're going to be looking at you and they're going to be fixated on you. And the more you maintain eye contact, you are actually unknowingly challenging them.
So
right?
they know when you have engaged eye contact with them.
Repeat what you said?
They know, the dogs, when a human has engaged in eye contact with them.
Yeah, they are aware.
They're that bright, Doc?
They what?
They're that bright?
Yeah, and we take that for granted.
No, I'm asking because I don't want to be attacked by any dog and I'll be applying your advice. I want to be sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. They can tell when we are engaging in direct eye contact with them. Yes, they are aware.
If they try to be friendly, so if they're that bright, would they pick up friendly gestures?
Yeah, friendly gestures, friendly tone, body language. They're trying to figure this out as much as us. Now, the thing is, they are unable to speak. So you look for cues to let you know if an animal may do something to you. So you're looking at, I will start off very low with barking. That's usually a signal to just let you know, warn you that they're around. They are making it known that they are here. There's growling, there's snarling, there is an anxious behavior as yawning, a short yawn, an open mouth. They won't necessarily do any harm at the point in time, but you can know that they are anxious and they're not comfortable in their environment, right? So you also look for if they have frown lines. So dogs that their face isn't relaxed, you can look at these cues on their body language. Is their tail between the legs or is it up and wagging, right? And all these things you probably can start putting into practice now, just looking at their body language because they can't speak. So we have to decipher their body language.
We have to try to interpret through their body language what they're trying to communicate to us.
Correct. And when they can tell us.
When the tail is between the leg, it means the dog is afraid of you. Correct.
They're scared, they're nervous, they're anxious, and they're not comfortable in the environment that they're in. So tail between the legs is usually indicative of a dog that is anxious or nervous in the environment that it is in. A tail with
a tail
dog,
is in the air.
Right, tail is in the air, the dog is comfortable, he is confident. And wagging is a friendly manner.
Yeah, that's the friendly part, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I would like to go briefly on the types of aggression that can be, and I think this is a really good forum in order for me to do this, where I go through types of aggression, because you can see when I mention it, how many types of aggression that has been found in these animals. So top one would be fear and anxiety, territorial, redirected aggression, where the dog would, and this tends to happen mostly, the dog would want to get to, like you mentioned, that small Chihuahua and Cougar, that small dog. If that dog, let's say the gate was not open and the animals wanted to get to the dog, but is unable to, if you try to intervene or you're around, that aggression can be redirected to you in them trying to get to the dog, but unable to, right? So bear in mind these type of aggression that I am listing out for our listeners. Maternal, a lot of people would have come across this many times. So if a dog has pups, a lot of people would say, I can't go by the mom, I can't touch her pups, she'll bite me. Yes, she's being maternal and she's protecting her young. And that's, in her mind, the right thing to do. It's not okay for us to then go into her space and to remove her pups without her permission, right? Another type of aggression would be pain or irritability. So a dog that is injured or in pain, if you touch that animal, you can be bitten as a means to let you know, I am not okay and I don't want you to touch me there. Another one is predatory. That's the instinct where they are trying to attack or get something that similar to, let's say, a rabbit or a guinea pig, and they are now hunting this animal. Frustration or elicited when you provoke. Social conflict, where there's fights among two dogs. You will see that when they are trying to mate and there are many male dogs around one female, they will become aggressive towards each other. And you don't intervene with your body, because then it can have redirected aggression to you. And then there's one that is idiopathic. That's a medical term that means unrelated, an unknown cause of why this dog is aggressive. And then there's disease related, where dogs can get dementia and they're unaware of their surroundings and they become frightened. There's a medical reason as to why that is so. So all these types of aggressions that I've listed, I'm sure our listeners have encountered one at some point in time.
So you could have a dangerous dog that is crazy.
In other words, yeah. And it doesn't have to be specific to breed. And that's what I wanted to also mention.
You have just highlighted the amount of risk humans are taking when they are around these dogs. Because they could be mad, but dangerous. You could be in trouble. I'm going to wrap up now, Farid. I looked at the series that was very popular, known as Game of Thrones. Remember that series?
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you remember the part where this other very terrible character he was, but he had some hounds. Remember that?
Well, I didn't watch it, so feel free to enlighten me.
Okay. And he was telling them when they captured him, in other words, they're going to give him a strange kind of death, the way he was taking other people's lives. Very heartless fella. But his hounds weren't fed for several days. So he was bleeding after they beat him really badly, but his face was still recognizable, and no dog will know the scent of the owner. Not so?
Yeah.
And they put him on the chair and tied him up, and they released his hounds. And then he told them, he laughed, he said, ha ha ha, my hounds will never harm me, notwithstanding how hungry they are. But they ate him. These dogs they lose control of who is their owner when they are hungry. All they want is they see us as meat, food.
The percentage of that happening is not very high. While it's not zero, it's not very high. So I don't want you to paint a picture that where with all the things that I've listed, we are unable to live with them and unable to train them. Now, what you've described is a scenario where someone has purposefully, and once again, humans are responsible. If someone did not feed the dog, is it the dog's fault that he is angry because he is hungry?
No, not entirely, Doc, but if the dog could be trained and knows the owner, a little hunger would make the dog lose sight of the owner and eat him.
Well, bear in mind that was a show that we you used as an example.
Okay, let me tell you, Trinidad, I know you must have heard some of these things too, Doc. Where you ever heard the dog that bites the hand that feed the dog? What kind of dog that is? That saying came up sort of on the basis of the same part that was highlighted in the show. Some dogs turn on you. I have seen in this country where dogs, because they were fed late, and these are not the real dangerous dogs, but the owner got bitten because they were fed late. And the owner was bitten by the dog because the dog was fed late, only late.
It is your responsibility to feed the dog on time.
But you said earlier on the dogs are bright. Remember you told me that they know if
They
when you
are.
have eye contact with them. If they're so bright, where the intelligence go when they feel hungry?
Most likely it goes back to their instinct. And once again, we took up the responsibility to domesticate these animals, and it is our responsibility to do better for them. I myself, as a responsible homeowner, pet owner, know that at 6 o'clock, these dogs need to be fed, and I will put things in place in order for them to be fed. It still falls on me. It still falls on us. And it is not, I would never say at any point in time that dogs are a high risk to live with. It is because of us that they become a risk to anyone, that we did a poor job. And we need to do better, and I will always stand by that. We need to do better.
All right, Doc. A nice defender of a man's best friend, we were told, a dog. Farid. Yeah.
Dr. Sammy, I appreciate the information you shared with us today. What concerns me, and I'm not holding you to this task, but I would imagine that the populace out there, our citizens or laypersons, ought to be mindful of the fact that there are rules in relation to having dogs at one's home, particularly dogs of this particular dangerous type. I'm well aware of what you said, that you may not be okura with every aspect of the Dog Control Act, but I guess coming out of this exercise, we can all enlighten ourselves a bit further. I think the public ought to be mindful of the fact of, number one, if it is anybody out there has a dog, and the dog is a dog of a certain class, meaning it's a class A dog, a bull terrier, a pit bull terrier, or any of the dogs that we mentioned earlier. If you fail to license that dog with the local authority, meaning the authority in the community in which you live, there's a fine of $100,000 and a jail term of 3 years that comes along with not registering your dog with the local authority. I think you, Dr. Sammy, would have some responsibility, just like any other vet, to perhaps enlighten the persons that you come into contact with who may have such dogs, that they ought to have these dogs licensed with the local authority, and the penalty for failing to license their dogs would mean that they have a fine to pay of $100,000, and they can go to jail for 3 years.
Jail.
So if
Yeah.
we have members of the public out who doesn't know what the law is, they know now, and there is no
Yeah.
excuse for not knowing what the law is. That is Section 10 of the Dog Control Act. Section 9 of the very same act speaks to the fact that you must have your dog in a secured compound. And if your compound isn't secured and you're housing a Class A dog there, so let us say you're licensed with the authority. But though you're licensed, you get away from the fact that, I have informed the authority as to me having a dog. But if it is your fencing isn't proper, your gating isn't proper, your security isn't proper, then there's a fine that goes that. There's a $50,000 fine and 1 year in jail. So let us say you're licensed. Your compound was inspected by the local authority. You've gotten a certificate of compliance. But you have an ongoing responsibility day to day, month to month, to ensure that 6 months down the line, that your compound is in keeping with what the authority informed you, or the specs that the authority informed you that your premises ought to be kept in. Failure to comply, you're looking at a $50,000 fine and 1 year in jail. My concern is this, doctor. Are you aware that there is an active, and I think you answered the question, the authority doesn't seem to be enforcing the law on our citizenry. So persons are out there breaking the law, and by the authority not enforcing the law, they're also negligent. So I think the citizens out there ought to be well aware that you can sue the local authority. You can sue the local authority as well as the dog owner for two things: not informing the authority that you have a dog of a certain class on your compound, and by not informing the authority, you're endangering the public. And further to that, when the authority doesn't make it their business, when they hear about incidents that take place, or they are aware, neighbors out there that are aware. Let us say Richard Norrie knows that the road has a Class A dog. Richard Norrie has a responsibility to inform the authority that, you know what, Dave McIntyre, Dr. Sammy has a dog of a certain nature, check it out. Find out if she has registered, if she is registered, or Richard Norrie or David McIntyre can simply go to the local authority, ask to see the register, and make a determination for themselves. If it is they check the register and realize that Farid isn't a certain class and he isn't registered in his area, then the authority has a responsibility to go there and to make inquiries and to ensure that the law is complied with. Now, let us say, Richard, let us say you have registered your dog with the authority. The authority comes and he looks and they examine your compound and realize you're okura with the law. Your fencing is proper, the height of your fence is proper, everything is in place. There's an additional element. You're supposed to be insured. Your insurance, Richard and David, your insurance should be to the value of minimally $250,000 value. And that insurance is an insurance to cover your dog and the would-be activities of your dog. So when it is Dr. Rowley is passing by and the dog attacks him, he can bring a suit against the dog owner. He can bring a suit sufficient to recompense him for the money he has to spend to, repair his impairment, whatever bite he gets, whatever injury he suffered as a result of the attack. So citizens out there need to know there is redress in the law. You can sue the dog owner and you can sue the authority, the local authority, for decent money. You don't just take a dog bite and walk away. You see, this is the problem we have here, Richard and David. We have laws in the country. We have the Dog Control Act, and people are not aware of what the act says, and they're not making themselves aware. When you fail to have a certificate of insurance, the penalty is $75,000 and 3 years in jail. How many persons out there listening to us may have an unlicensed dog? Chances are, if your dog is unlicensed, you have no insurance, because in order to be insured, you must provide a certificate of compliance. So it is very likely that one flows into the other. You have an unlicensed dog, therefore you have no insurance. So you're breaching the law on several levels. You're compromising the integrity of the community. You're compromising the health and care of the citizens around you. And these people should be in jail. This is not a situation where we could laugh. I am not casting aspersions on the owners of the 11-year of the dog where the 11-year-old girl perished. I'm beyond that. I am thinking in the future because of, sadly to say, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but we've already suffered the loss of many persons, elderly and young. I'm thinking this situation, if it is we have persons with unlicensed dogs out there and the local authority is not making efforts to determine who is not in compliance and the law is not being enforced against them, we are creating lawlessness in the society, and it's lawlessness not only in terms of the citizens not obeying the laws, but the authority not doing what they ought to do.
Correct.
Simply put, the enforcement of the law and the provisions of the legislation, Parliament and the government has done, and when I say the government, the Parliament, government and opposition, the legislature has sat down and put together a piece of legislation that we should all be complying with. And we all need to make ourselves aware of what the provisions of the Act is. So Dr. Sammy, when it is you're engaging in your practice, you, just like Richard and myself, we as lay persons also inform the local authority if it is we are aware that, there are dogs out there, the dogs are not being treated and conducted in the road, on the public pathway, in a manner that is consistent with how they ought to be treated. Because you can't be walking in the road with a dog of a classic, and the dog isn't fettered in a particular way. The dog isn't muzzled in a particular way. The dog isn't in the public space and being treated or being controlled in a particular way. And it's easy to make a determination because very often we see, sometimes from time to time, dogs of a particular nature on the back of pickups, on the trays of vans. We see that in when you go into the even if you're going into the, let us say, as we say in Trinidad language, you go hunting. These dogs are to be conducted in a particular way. Hunters out there, they have to traverse private property in order to get to where they have to go. When these dogs are on the road, if the dogs aren't licensed, if the dogs aren't registered, then why are the dogs being allowed into public spaces? And that is just the general law. If it is we were to zero in on citizens in terms of persons who may have the dogs on their compounds, and again, I'm not zeroing on the 11-year-old child, Ms. Bagwandine. I'm not even venturing there. I'm simply saying this. And Dr. Sammy, guide me here. If it is a family has a dog that attacks another member of the family, basically what we are doing when it is we don't enforce the law on the owner of the dog is we are taking the law into our own hands. The grandmother owns the dog. The dog attacks the granddaughter. The mother of the child saying that my mother means well, but the thing is, my mother may not have treated with the dog in a manner that is consistent with what the law allows. She knows the granddaughter will be on the compound. She knows that the dog answers to certain signals. She knows the dog. She knows the dog being part of her family is not a part of the granddaughter is not a part of that family in the sense that she doesn't live in the house. She doesn't know the signals. She doesn't know how to get the dog to respond in a certain way. The grandmother knows that. But for want of if we were to marry a metaphor, the horse has already bolted the stable. The dog has already attacked the child. The dog is in full action, full gear, attacking this child. And what can be done now to restrain that dog? So there's a certain culpability and liability that may even go within the household. If I marry a term, his son murders his mother. The family get together and say, well, we keep this within the family. The state has to do what the state has to do. The family cause the damage has to be arrested, detained, and the letter of law applied against them in the same manner. If it is something happens within the household and the grandmother didn't do what she ought to do, then the law should run its course on her. There should be a full investigation and a determination be made as to culpability and liability. It's only when that is done then persons who have dogs, realizing what the penalties are, will give up the dog, Richard, because there is allowances in the act. When it is you can't control your dog, if you figure you reach a certain age and you're not the person that you used to be, or you're not of a certain age, you simply don't have the gumption or the willpower, or you don't have the foresight, or you don't have the wherewithal to control that dog that you have, you can give the dog over to the local authority and they will find alternative owners, or simply they could put the dog to sleep. So I'm hoping, Dr. Sammy, that the public is listening, and they are at least a molecule more educated today, based on the dialogue that you have taken and walked us through, and based on the answers that Richard was able to extract out of you. At least the public is aware now that there is a law. There's the Dog Control Act, and I trust that the responsibility not only lies with us, the lay persons, but persons like yourself, other vets, other veterinarians will sort of guide and encourage persons who have dogs of this nature to educate themselves, to be mindful of the fact that insurance policies need to be engaged, the local authority needs to be made aware that you have these dogs, you need to be put on a register. Richard, I'm also thinking that the local authority, if they're hearing us, or the public who is listening to us now, need to engage the local authority, even if it is we don't own a dog. We may be very knowledgeable of the persons who own the dogs, or or compounds that have these dogs, and report them. It's not that you're being malicious and vindictive.
No,
we're being careful. We're looking at our neighbors.
I think we should, Farid, I want to call on all our listeners, wherever you are in the country, and we have a lot in Germany and America and all about listening to us right now. I want to call on all of them. If you're in Trinidad or you intend to come back to Trinidad, if you know anybody with a dangerous dog, go straight to the local body, the local government authority, and report that dog. That dog might damage the people in your community someday. I find them to be very, very dangerous. I am not against the dog. People wouldn't believe I'm a dog lover. I'm a supporter of the dogs. I love the dogs, but we do not have the systems in place to protect humans from dangerous dogs yet. And while some of us, I know a person who have a tiger, You know that? A tiger.
A tiger in Trinidad?
Yes, a tiger. Someone told me to drive by a certain place in a very nice community, and they said, listen, if you hear that song, it's a tiger to have it. I said, let us get out of here, because if that I prefer the dogs any day. But I'm saying it's a sad thing, and we need to do what we must to help save people in this country from dangerous dogs. And it's not the dogs in and of themselves that we could view as the problem. The problem is, as Dr. Sammy said, our failure, yes, to do what is required to have proper control in place for those dogs. Because you have them, your dog not even registered. You have the dog, you don't even have it insured. You understand what I'm saying? You have it, your fence not at the proper height, you have holes in your gate, but you have some string around the dog and it tight, and you test it with your hand, and you assume the dog can't burst that until something tempts the dog enough that it summons strength that the owner didn't know the dog possessed, and it bursts the string, and then you want to know, I didn't know it could do that. The consequence of that is somebody could be dead in the street. So I am for the dogs, but we need to put something in place.
Yeah.
Doctor says she got bitten 2 or 3 times. If I only see those dogs, I'll beat them, doc. I will beat them. I mean, you're taking care of the dogs and they'll bite you. Come on. But before we go, doc, Farid, I have a dog. I wouldn't believe that. So I'm going to just ask a personal thing now to see if I can get some back. Yeah. Now, we have a nice little dog. I can't remember the name of the dog. I could call my son to see if he could tell me the name. A Pumpek. A Pumpek, it is the thing. Very nice. Right. Now, everything we eat, doc, A vet told us, when he was small, where we used to carry everything we eat, the vet told us feed the dog that too. So what I could say about this dog eats everything we eat, and we cannot eat everything that dog eats because he gets dog food. We don't eat that, but everything we eat, we share it with him, excepting coffee. But he gets chocolate tea, he gets milk. He takes, he partakes in everything.
No chocolate, no chocolate, no chocolate.
He's going to turn on us, Doc. He's going to turn on us. I want to be sure. Now, here what is happening with this dog. Here what's happening, the problem we have with this dog now. We turn one of our gallery areas as his space because he doesn't want to be in the yard, but we don't want him in the house. So we create a massive space for him that is his own alone, right? When we go out, we play with him, he's happy and so on, and he gets everything that he needs. But when we close the door, he starts to scratch down the door. He becomes like a big bad dog from a little dog, and start to provoke us and sound as though he wants to come through the door. Tell me, what is happening with this dog? Many nights I want to know, Father, what could we do again? He has everything that he needs, and yet still, is it that he wants to come inside?
He doesn't have you.
Small, he has been trained outside. So it cannot be that he wants to come inside. What could be the problem? Is it that he needs another dog?
Yes, companion can help with that. But I will tell you this, and I'll leave you with this. I always tell my clients, you have a life. You can go to work, you can go to dinner, you can go to school. You have things to do. All your dog has is you. If you have just one dog, all that dog has is you. Not necessarily that he wants to be inside, and sometimes, yes, they can be, but their life or what they want would be you. And that's the thing with domesticating these animals. We have now created a human-animal bond that we need to continue to harvest and to manifest responsibly. So for your dog, yes, you may get another companion, and that dog will now have someone to share that space with and that life with, and you have to be careful of. There's always a way to introduce a new dog to a new home. So that's also, you have to do your research to do the responsible thing. But bear in mind that all these animals have is you. They depend on you to eat. They depend on you to get fresh water when you made an enclosure. They depend on you to either set a space where they can do their numbers. They depend on you. And a lot of people forget that pets is considered a luxury item. And if you have a pet, it is your responsibility to, yes, you may say that pet has everything it needs, but if you're giving him water, food, shelter, the other thing that they usually care for or want, in your case, is that interaction with you and your family, and to be part of your I would say clan or team. They want to be a part of that.
Doc, I told my son it could be that he doesn't bathe the dog enough. He gets a bath like twice a week, sometimes if he's lucky 3 times a week. That's enough?
Well, ideally a pet should be bathed once a month.
Oh, so he's been...
You overbated the dog, Richard.
That could be the problem. No, every time he goes to clean out there, I would tell him to shampoo him and bathe him, and that could be the problem. He's getting cold or something.
Do you blow dry him when he's finished?
Not blow dry. I feel that'd be too harsh on him, the heat, but we put a big blanket on him.
Big blanket. The other thing is,
yeah.
Do you guys walk him? What is the interaction you'll have? What is playtime? What is than...
My son kind of banned him, and that's what may have started the problem too. I have to share that. So I want to know, this is my observation, because he used to walk him quite often, but one time when he was outside and he was trying to carry him back to his place, he behaved as though he wanted to attack him. He didn't want to go back out there. So he got help. I called my neighbor to help my son because I didn't want the dog to attack me. and they lift him and they put him back out on the other side where he belongs, where he accustomed to. And my son decided since then he wouldn't carry him for a walk again for a long time as a punishment. Now that long time is about a month, and he has been behaving very badly. He gets everything else, and he goes out and plays with him out there, but he cut the walk because he said if he has to go through that again, when he walks him to put him back out there, it's going to be serious problems.
Right. So this is where I would
child or address this problem.
I would say you need to get a trainer's number. Feel free to message me for a few. But this is where training will need to happen, and it won't just happen with just your son and the dog. It will be a family event. Because if you have a dog that I would say in our Creole or layman term, has its own way, you have to address that issue as a family, and you have to undergo training with that dog.
All right. So, but one of the things you said the dog could be short of, it's us to socialize.
Yeah.
Dogs
Correct.
really do socialize.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
I think there might be a shortage in that part. That is part of the conclusion from my observation. It could be that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that you are honest enough to recognize that. I have given you the tools in terms of letting you be aware of where, because that's where we falter our dogs. We think we give them enough by giving them food and shelter and water, but we forget the socializing part. How we socialize them to be with kids, to be with senior citizens, to be with other dogs, to be around cars, to be around bikes. Those are all things we take for granted.
Yeah, I see. So dogs chasing after bikes and cars, that's socializing for the dog?
Poor socializing, actually.
Oh, okay, I see.
Poor
Very,
socializing.
very poor socializing, yeah. I see.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Doc. I learned a lot today from you, and I'm going to try to apply some of those tools to our dog to see if we could care for him in a more meaningful way. We like him a lot, and he's a good alarm. He's a very good alarm, better than the cameras we have. But I want to make sure he remains strong and healthy. Thank you so much, Doc. Farid will finish us off. Farid.
Dr. Sammy, we have to thank you for the time you've taken to share with us and the public. Clearly, coming out of this dialogue and conversation, we know that we ought to enter into relationships with our animals, particularly our dogs. We have to treat them like we treat another human being, not just to feed them, but to nurture them and to nurture
Farid, hold on,
them.
Farid, sorry for interrupting you. You have a dog?
I was like, wait, hold on.
No, hold on, wait. You have a dog, Farid?
I have a dog, but I'm certainly not going to engage in that relationship with the dog, Richard. I'll be honest. I'll be very, very honest. I'll leave that to the rest of the family. I don't mind.
Is your dog a dangerous dog?
No, it's not a dangerous dog, but I don't mind paying for the food and supplying on that side, the monetary side. But I'm certainly not going to have the dog on my bed, on my couch. I ain't doing that.
No.
No, you don't have to. Absolutely not.
That ain't
you don't
happening.
Have to.
Yeah, I like our dog a lot, but we have a barrier. We have a demarcation, and the dog must understand that. But we love him nonetheless, equal to us.
What I would say to you, Richard, if you calculate and just bear in mind how much time does your son spend with your dog within the day, that is what I mean in terms of socialization. So I'm not saying your dog has to be on your bed. It has to be a part of your family and be human-like or treated as such. I would say that the amount of time spent with your dog should be considered in order to harbor and harvest a healthy, respectful relationship with your dog. They are pack creatures, and they do have they're supposed to look to us as alpha in order to follow our instructions. And I will just bear that in mind. I'm a vet and I love my animals, yes, but I as well. I don't have a dog right this minute, but when I did.
Hold on, dog. What happened to your dog?
I moved. I'm renting where I'm not allowed dogs, but I always tell people, no, there's no need for them to be on your bed, but how much time would you spend? And that time spent, what do you do? What are you training? How do you train? There's obedience training, there's aggressive training, there's protection training. So all these things, there's much more to talk about.
My final question, would you have another dog?
Absolutely. I'm just waiting
And
for
this is the extension of the final question. The dog you had, was it a dangerous dog?
No, it wasn't. It was our local bred dog.
I see. Would you ever own a dangerous dog, Doc?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will at some point. But like Farid had mentioned, I will have the proper things in place, the proper structure, the proper security, do the proper training. And the insurance.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And the insurance. And I will do whatever is necessary in order for that animal to have a better life with me and with others. Because it is on me to be responsible for the safety of others as well.
We have a manager here by the name of Steve Khan. You know Steve Khan?
Yes, I do.
Steve Khan had anything to do with working with Faris and Melissa to hook up this interview?
No.
Because if Steve Khan comes across to me, he's such a huge dog lover. If he's driving home and he see a lonely dog, he may stop and pick it up. You know?
Yeah.
He has a wonderful heart. He's actually a client of ours.
Oh, well, there you go. Good blessings to Steve. Yeah.
This meeting was not through him. I think Farid Ali reached out to Dr. Crooks in Tobago. And because I am the public relations officer for the Trinidad and Tobago Vet Association, which I forgot to mention in the earlies, I'm usually the one to do interviews, whether it's on television or on radio, or any correspondence on behalf of the vet community. I am your person until otherwise.
Farid, you brought on a really wonderful doctor, and she was very candid in her responses to how we should take care of our dogs and how we should train them, and sharing the tools that we need to have to adequately take care of our dogs. So I hope our listeners got the message today. There was a lot to take away from this interview. Thank you, Farid. Thank you so much, Dr. Sammy. I hope to have you on. I hope Farid bring it on sometime again, because I want to go and test those things on our dog. If they work, I would like to so inform you. And if they don't, I would also like to so inform you.
Sure.
And if the dog bites me, I would want to let you know what it did to me. All right. Take it easy. Thank you so much, Farid.
Thank you, Farid.
Thanks again, Richard. Thanks again, David. And Dr. Sammy, we look forward to seeing you and hearing from you again.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Take care, guys.
Okay.
All right.
You too. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I talk to Ruben a lot, and he's a wonderful chap. Ruben has a dog. No, I'd like to hear what's Ruben version, because he's always very technical, you know. No, he said no to everyone. No, sorry.